everyone, it's Nicole here, the Harmonious Hippy. I hope that you are all doing really well and that you're having a good week or weekend. Today's video is just going to be somewhat of a restorative practice. So heavily propped. If you have any props that you can use, I've got 2 yoga blocks that Herman has decorated nicely for me. So grab 2 yoga blocks if you have them, maybe some heavy books. Something like that you can use to stack up and support. I've also brought a strap. You can also use a towel, the strap to a robe, a belt, something like that. I have my usual little knee pad thing. And I also have, sitting on an ice pack here, I have a weighted eye pillow. So I have this in the freezer, but just because we're obviously gonna be practicing beforehand and it's already out, I just left it sitting on an ice pack just to keep it a little bit cool, because it's really nice to have that cool weight on your eyes in Shavasana. I'm also gonna light some Palo Santo. And other than that, those are all the props that you'll need. You can also bring pillows, blankets, anything you want today. It is gonna be a nice restorative practice, so feel free to use as many props as you would like. I do not have the mic today because I forgot to charge it, so you're gonna have to just listen to my voice. And the cats for causing havoc if they are. But otherwise, just grab your props and let's get started. Okay, so just getting started, I'm gonna light some Palo Santo. This candle is almost done here, so it might not work too well. So you can do this as well if you'd like. It doesn't have to be something that you only do when you practice yoga. You can smudge your home whenever you feel the need to. Smudging is a ceremonial practice, typically, or I guess initially practiced by Native Americans. And this was to cleanse their space before starting any of their sacred practices and that kind of stuff. So when we do it, just making sure that we're not appropriating, of course, and honoring where things actually came from. So if you would rather just call it cleansing your space, you don't have to call it smudging, just because that was something that was is something that is very ceremonial. So for me, I just like to use the smoke to cleanse the area, cleanse the vibes out of here. Palo Santo is very good for removing negativity, bringing in positivity, that kind of stuff. Similarly with sage, which is more common that you'll see, is white sage being burned. And sage is going to also rid you of negative energy. It's really good to leave a window open if you're saging your place, just to allow the negative energy to escape. With sage, please do be careful because it will keep burning. Palo Santo, as you'll see, will stop burning. It won't stay lit typically. Again, always practice fire safety with it regardless, but sage will keep burning typically. So it's a great idea to have something like this. I just have a really beautiful, I'm obsessed with this, seashell. So you can just get something like that, like a little stand, and you can just place it in there, something that's heat safe. Just making sure that you're always being safe. So I'm gonna move the candle away from my hair. And then we're just gonna come into a comfortable seat. So again, as always at the beginning of the practice, when we start off with our little centering meditation, you can start off sitting on a couch, on your bed, sitting on the floor like I am. You can sit on a chair. You do just want to make sure that you are propped nicely. I always like to come and sit on a pillow or a block, which I'm on a block right now, just to get that anterior tilt to the pelvis. So you want to make sure that your knees are either in line with or below your hip joints. Again, still as usual, my one side is a little hiked up here just because of my ankle. I still can't quite sit cross-legged comfortably with it, so I'm gonna have that sticking up a little weird, but otherwise you wanna make sure that you have that nice angle with your knee. So just coming into your comfortable position, getting your last wiggles out, getting yourself situated. You can leave the palms face down for grounding or face up for receiving, depending on what you're feeling today. And let's roll the shoulders up and back, creating a nice open space across the chest. Tucking the chin slightly to grow nice and tall through the crown of the head, which is actually located around where my bun is. People think that the crown is like the very center of your head and have a tendency to raise their chin. So just tucking the chin slightly, so you really want to feel that length from your spine. And beginning to breathe in and out through the nose. Feeling the breath begin to perhaps slow down or deepen. Just beginning to tune into the body, scanning down. Heidi's tuning in as well. Scanning down from the top of the head to the toes. Just observing where your physical body is at today. Perhaps you have an injury. Maybe there's an area that's holding a lot of tension, an area with some tingling or sensation. Not dwelling too long on any one of these areas. Just continuing to scan through, just so you know what your body's looking like today, what you're dealing with. And when we do these scans, even if it is something that you're noticing like an injury or something like that, try not to put the negative connotation on it. So we're not trying to label good or bad with any of the sensations or feelings we have in the body or the mind ever through yoga. We just want to get an idea of what the body's feeling. So perhaps if there is a feeling of pain or discomfort, that's something we can work to alleviate through the practice, but it's not something that you need to send judgment to, or frustration, impatience. And I do it too. My ankle, I injured my ankle at the end of January and it's still not back to normal, so I definitely have my moments where I'm frustrated and sending irritation there. But when you think about it, there's still so much good. I could afford to get the medical care that I needed. I didn't break it. I can drive, I can walk. I can still do yoga. So I'm not saying that you need to change your personality necessarily and become a positive Polly, and that can be unrealistic and not necessarily authentic as well. But just for your own good, your own happiness. Just trying to see maybe the little things that could be bits of silver lining in anything. Trying not to dwell in the pain. Of course, if you have something like a chronic illness or chronic pain, it's obviously a different situation. Being in pain constantly every day can be very grating. So when we come to our mats, we want to try to not necessarily pretend that there's something good that we're learning from being in pain every day, because that's a harsh thing to think about if you are in that situation. But always coming to your mat with the idea that whatever is there is where your body is at in this exact moment. And through your practice today, with your breath, with your movement, thinking that you might bring yourself just even that little bit of relief. And really do something to nourish your body, whether it still feels the pain afterwards or not. Through the practice, we are doing something to hopefully feel good in the body, the mind, and the soul in this time that we're on our mat. So just focusing on the breath, allowing the body to settle. Feeling as fresh air flows in through the nose, and the stale air breathes out through the nose. a few cleansing breaths. Taking a deep breath in through the nose. Opening the mouth, sigh that out. Twice more, deep breath through the nose. With sound. Last one, gather up any last bits of tension. Inhale through the nose. Opening the mouth, let that go. Can begin to blink the eyes open. I'm going to remove my prop here, just so that I feel a little bit more stable on the ground. I'm just going to bring a little bit of movement into the hips. So just beginning to move the upper body in a circle. Beginning to loosen up the hips, get some movement in the spine. And just being very gentle with yourself today, noticing areas where you really feel like you might want to push yourself. And push yourself doesn't mean you have to come into a full split or something like that. It doesn't necessarily need to be a strength thing. It can also be mental. And it can also just be pushing yourself to flow more organically. So you might really feel pulled to really express the movement in your spine here, maybe moving the head and the shoulders and really intuitively moving. Or you might just feel a little more reserved today, maybe just making tiny circles just with the upper body, not really moving the head. That's totally fine. Just finding where you feel good today. I apologize, my voice is very gravelly today. I'm not sure if I'm tired or what's going on, but you guys are getting the sexy voice today. Wishful thinking, just switching directions now. Moving intuitively, maybe one side feels a little bit more open than the other. Continuing to breathe in and out through the nose. Just coming back to center. Maybe switching your feet if you had your legs crossed. Just to see the difference. Maybe it feels really weird. I personally always cross my other foot in front, so it always feels weird when I switch my feet up. I feel like I can't sit properly. We're just going to do a couple of quick neck stretches. So just dropping one ear to one shoulder. Letting the head fall heavy. You can always reach the opposite arm out to the side to really pull along that side of the neck. And you can always play with tilting the chin up or down. Moving very slowly and gently. As always, when we're doing things with the neck, we want to make sure that we're very careful. Breathing. And just letting that go. Beginning to tilt the chin down. And slowly dropping the head through center, perhaps pausing there for a moment. And then rolling up to the other side. And again, dropping that ear heavy to the shoulder, making sure that these shoulders aren't creeping up towards the ears. Maybe releasing the opposite arm out to the side. Perhaps playing with gazing up or down here. And you don't have to move in your poses once you've reached your pose. You can always just land in the pose and let gravity pull you deeper. I'm noticing here in poses where there's not a ton of movement and focus necessarily needed, notice what your mind is doing. Are you thinking about the sensation in your neck? Or are you thinking about what Susan said to you in the office today that ticked you off? You're thinking about the emails that you have to deal with tomorrow or what you're going to make for dinner. Try and just take this time that we're on the mat today for just yourself, just your body in this moment. Let everything else go just for now. And just think of the sensations in the body and what you can release, and on your breath. Slowly gazing down and rolling the head through center and up to the other side. Just slowly completing a few more of these circles here. I prefer to do half circles. I've just recently come out of a neck injury, so it feels better for me to stay to the front, depending on any neck issues that you may have. If you have any slip discs or anything like that, you'll want to keep doing only half circles as well. But if you're really craving a full circle and you want to drop the head back, you can go ahead and do that, just making sure that you're paying attention and moving slowly. So if it is uncomfortable, you'll notice before you cause an injury. So just getting that movement in. Noticing where the shoulders are. Have they crept up at all? Relax them down. And slowly bringing the head back to center. We're just gonna gaze towards one side. Not pulling, we don't want to see how far we can turn here. Just getting that motion in the neck. Slowly back to center. And gazing over the other side. Rolling the shoulders up and back here. Back to center. To the side. Center. And to the side. Let's shake the head yes, as I mentioned previously. If it's uncomfortable for you to drop the head back, just leave that motion out, but you can drop the head back. And then slowly bringing the chin to the chest, back, and forward. Again, always moving slowly with the neck to make sure that you are aware if there is something that's uncomfortable. Sometimes we can get moving too quickly, so we won't notice until it's too late and have already pulled something. So just back to center, maybe rocking side to side a little bit. Just wiggling out just that little bit more. And we're gonna roll over onto our hands and knees. So if you'd like to grab a folded up blanket or some sort of prop to place under your knees, you can go ahead and do that. Just coming into our tabletop position. So lining up the knees under the hips and the wrists under the shoulders, spreading the fingers. We're gonna do some cat-cows here and wake up the spine. So with your inhale, dropping the belly down, tilting the tailbone up to the sky, peeling the shoulders back nice and open across the chest. If it's safe for your neck, you can bring the gaze up. Really releasing the belly, letting that full breath come into the belly. And on your exhale, pressing the navel to the spine, squeezing that air out, pressing into the hands to peel the scapula apart. Chin comes to chest. And tucking the tailbone, angry cat. So squeezing that breath out, really pressing into the upper back. Inhale, dropping the belly, lifting the gaze. And exhale, curling up. Just flowing with your own breath through a few of these here. And I invite you to really slow your breath down and take a moment to pause at each stage. So fully squeezing out your exhale and taking a moment before you begin your inhale again. Same thing with your inhale, fill up, pause for a moment at the top, and then exhale. Just observing all of the areas of the breath. If you'd like to bring a little bit more movement, you can start to rotate the body. Getting into your sexy cat here. I don't make up the names, you guys. I'm just the messenger. So making sure that you continue to breathe, whether you're just sticking with your regular cat-cows or if you're rotating the rib cage or the hips. Switching directions if you are doing a circular motion. And coming back to a neutral spine, we're just gonna twist the fingers pointing back towards the toes. I also like to tuck my toes under so that I can get a bit of a double stretch here. And I like to do one hand at a time personally because my wrists are not very stretchy and this is very painful for me. So see what feels good for you. This might be really easy, so you might have both hands at the same time. Whatever works, wherever you're at today. Just stretching into that inner wrist. Perhaps you can feel the stretch in the toes. And releasing that hand and switching to the other, unless you're doing both. Feeling that stretch, breathing. You might notice that one side feels quite a bit tighter than the other. That's normal as well, depending on your dominant hand. Releasing that hand. Let's go ahead and switch the hands so that we now have the top of the hand placed on the mat with the fingers pointing towards you. So again, you may notice this is very different. If you were quite flexible this way, this one might be a little bit more uncomfortable for you. I'm the opposite. I find this one a little bit easier, whereas the other one is quite difficult for me. So it depends. Maybe both are really easy for you. There's no medal at the end. It just sort of depends on where you're at with your body. Maybe trying to make some fists here, just really feeling that stretch through the top of the wrist and the forearms. Again, if this is quite hard for you, you can always do one hand and then the other. Trying to move towards straight elbows here. So you can always walk the hands in closer or farther away from you. And switching hands if you're using one at a time. And slowly releasing. Ooh, sitting back, maybe on your heels if that's comfortable. And just giving the wrists a shake here, side to side. And then up and down. That one feels a little weird. We're used to doing side to side, I think. Maybe rolling the wrists. Now, pressing yourself forward, let's bring the knees out wide as if we're going to come into our child's pose. And we want to bring one foot on top of the other. So we're going to bring the entirety of our top foot onto the other one. So I'll kind of twist here to show you where it is. So just like that. So you want your whole foot in that meaty middle bit of your bottom foot. And then we're just going to start to lean back as if we're coming into our child's pose. So this is really going to help stretch out that arch of the bottom foot, and it really provides a nice deep stretch along the top of the top foot as well. So from here you can start to press yourself up. You can stay here if this is good for you, if you feel a lot of sensation. You can come sitting all the way up. I personally, I flex my toes a lot on this side just because this is the side with my ankle injury, so having it fully stretching like that is a bit much. So if you have a similar injury, or if the tops of your feet aren't very stretchy, then it might feel a little bit better to try and flex your foot. We're really just trying to focus on getting the stretch, the release into that arch of the bottom foot. So again, just coming as deep as is comfortable for you. And coming forward, just tapping out the feet. And then switching sides, so crossing the feet, having the entirety of the top of the foot pressing into the arch of the other, beginning to lean back. And you can press yourself up. You can come all the way up to sit back on your heels, really feeling that sensation in the, I always want to say ball of the foot, it's the arch of the foot. Breathing, making sure that your shoulders haven't crept up to your ears here. And slowly releasing back out, shaking out the feet. And now making sure that the knees are open nice and wide, toes in towards each other, just sinking back into your child's pose. As I said at the beginning, we're gonna do a bit of a restorative style today, and we are gonna be heavily propped if that is something that is comfortable for you. So if you would like, you can bring a pillow or a bolster here. You can also bring a block or something to come under your head. You can bring something like this and put your head to the side, or you can just come into your standard child's pose, whatever feels the best for you today. If you'd like to release the wrists, you can always bring your hands back beside you like little chicken wings. And just releasing the forehead down. Perhaps rocking side to side to work out any tension from the forehead. And we're going to stay here for a minute, so just make sure that you are really comfortable here. And then just let go. Allow the hips to drop down towards the heels. Coming to your breath. Observing as it flows in and out through the nose. Again, noticing where your mind is going. Are you thinking about things you need to do today still? Shopping lists? Just trying to stay tuned in with the breath. Really feeling into the body, seeing how this feels. Staying very present here. Slowly beginning to come up. We're just going to sink forward onto our bellies, so I'm just removing my prop. And just coming down onto the stomach. We're gonna move into a half frog here. So depending on your terrain, I have a very hard floor and very delicate knees, so I'm gonna bring a little blanket beside me. If you'd like to bring a prop under you, you can do that as well. And we're just gonna pop one knee. So it's if we're coming into frog pose, so we want the knee to be in line with our hip and the ankle in line with the knee. So instead of keeping your foot back like you're in a child's pose, you do want that out. And then you're going to roll yourself so that you're centered over the hip and the hip is dropping down. So not leaning back away from it. You wanna be lined up right on top there. And you can look back and check. And then just relaxing the foot, the hip. You can bring yourself down to a block. Gazing to one side if that's comfortable. You can come down onto the floor. And just making sure that you're continuing to even out the hips. So you do want to feel that nice sensation in the hip flexor of the leg that you have bent. So just releasing that here. then slowly just moving towards the other side so you can move your prop. And again, you want the knee in line with the hip and the ankle in line with the knee, and then instead of letting yourself roll away, you want to roll into that hip, just so that you're evenly pressing both hip flexors into the ground here. So you're gonna feel that nice sensation in the groin and the hip flexor on the front of that leg that's bent. And again, you can come down to a block or the ground. Just sinking into that sensation, allowing the hip to release. And slowly beginning to bring yourself back up, removing that prop. And we're just going to rock over onto one side here and just begin to press yourself up. We're going to come into a stretch of the this sort of like a fascial release. So you're gonna need a block for this. If you have some heavy books or something that you can use that won't push over and move, you can use that as well. If you have maybe like a really hard pillow, something like that, you do just wanna be able to get something that will like press into your armpit kind of area. So you may have to move around and search for it. You may not feel anything. And it also could be dead center. It could be a little bit more towards the front or towards the back. You'll sort of have to move yourself around. So I like to line up my block around where my bra strap is. So this is sort of mid-rib, and I immediately, especially on this side, this is my intense side, I immediately feel it. So you might feel a lot of sensation here, where it feels almost like you're digging in. And that is what you want. You can always bring your knees up, maybe move yourself, adjust yourself around a little bit. It might be a lot of sensation, so you can use your arm to sort of press yourself away or give yourself a break. But this is a really good release, just for the intercostal muscles, like the muscles in between your ribs, and the fascial layer that's on top. It can get really blocked, especially under here, like in this area. So it's really nice to just try and release this, and a lot of tension can be held in this area, and who thinks to stretch their armpit, right? So it can be very intense, but it is a very good release as well. You can release the hand, drop the head, you can bring the head to a block if you would like. Whatever's gonna be comfortable for you. I sort of like to hold my head. This is quite a lot of sensation for me, so I'm not relaxed in this pose. Though I do invite you to breathe deeply and try to find some place of rest in this pose. So it may be very intense, very uncomfortable, but just find that place where you can handle it, where you can stay. And then just in and out through the nose, breathing into it, and noticing your whole body as you're doing this. Are your shoulders creeping up to the ears? Are you squeezing your glutes? Are you clenching your jaw? Just noticing every other area that you can control and just trying to release tension in those areas. So while you may be feeling a lot of sensation in this space under the armpit here, there's no need to be feeling the tension anywhere else. So try and release it everywhere else. And you can move. I always have a tendency to sort of rock forward into it, which is where I feel mine a lot more, and then I'll sort of back away off of it a tiny bit. And I sort of move myself along that meridian line the whole time, just making tiny, tiny little adjustments here. Continuing to breathe. Getting some kitten kisses. Taking one more full breath in and out. And slowly pressing yourself up. And we're just gonna rotate over and do that on the other side. So you may notice that the spot where you most felt the sensation is totally different on the other side. You may need to kind of move around a lot more to find it. For me, on this side, it's closer to my back than it is to the front, whereas the other side, it's a lot more in the front. So you may find it right away. You may need to move around and adjust a little bit. Just find that spot, move around a little bit, get to a place where you're comfortable sort of staying there. And again, releasing the shoulders down, unclenching the jaw, softening the brow, releasing the glutes, releasing your hands if they're in fists or if your toes are clenched. Releasing everything else so that this is the only sensation that your body has to deal with. Calming breaths in and out through the nose. Taking a deep inhale through the nose. Nice long exhale. And slowly pressing yourself up. We're going to come into our pigeon pose. If pigeon isn't comfortable for you, you can come onto your back and come into your figure 4 stretch, reaching through the legs or just leaving them down. So there are options if pigeon isn't working for you today. Otherwise, you can come in from a downward facing dog, or you can just lean onto the side of your hip. You want to bring your front leg about parallel. Depending on your knees and your hips, that may not be possible, and that's totally fine. You can always bring the foot a little bit closer to the body. And then you want to rock up on top of that hip. So we don't want to stay down like this. You want to have the hips even. So drawing yourself up nice and tall, maybe extending that back leg a little bit longer. And then exhale, you can release yourself down, coming to forearms. You can come to a block here. Just finding a place where it's comfortable for you to stay for a little bit. Feeling that sensation start to build in the hip flexor and the glute. Just sending your breath to that space. Noticing how your mind is responding to this posture. Perhaps it's getting very busy. Just focusing on the inhale and the exhale. Periodically sweeping through the body, just noticing if there's anywhere where you can release a little bit more. So maybe the jaw is clenched, just release that, let that go. Sticking with the breath. Noticing if this starts to become very intense. Just observing that. If you feel the need to come out, just inviting yourself to take one more deep breath. Stay for one more breath. Slowly pressing yourself back up. We're just gonna rock onto that bum cheek and start to pull your back leg towards you here. Perhaps you can grab the foot, maybe you wanna grab a strap here. And I like to just pull my heel in towards my bum. So not twisting the knee open or in too much, just trying to keep the leg in line and just pulling that heel in. So this is gonna really stretch the quad, the front of the thigh. And letting that go. We're going to release that leg that was long out to the side, pulling the bent leg in towards the upper thigh, sort of like a seated tree pose. Keeping the hips pointing in front of you so the leg is out to your side. I like to use my opposite hand to sort of press my knee away. And then I like to extend my top arm up. So make sure that the shoulder is nice and open. You're not closing the body off here. Opening the chest and beginning to reach up and over. Gaze can be up at the elbow, or you can gaze down at the ground if that's more comfortable for your neck. Just feeling that stretch in the side body here. Peeling the chest open. And then inhaling back up. We're going to place that hand behind us. Pressing into that hand, we're going to pop up onto our knee and our heel. So coming through, pressing into that back hand, sweeping the other arm up and over, and just getting a little bit of a back bend here. Again, you can drop the head back or keep the chin tucked depending on how that feels for you. And then just sweeping yourself back down to seated. We're going to switch sides for our pigeon pose. So again, just rocking onto the opposite hip, trying to bring the leg towards parallel with the front of your mat. Again, if your knees and hips don't like that, you can bring the knee or the heel back towards you a little bit more. And then rocking up, going up nice and tall, big inhale, and then exhale, hinging at the hip, folding over. Again, as with most everything else in yoga, one side is always going to feel a little bit different than the other. So noticing if this side feels a lot easier, maybe you feel a lot more tension on this side. Just adjust yourself so that you're comfortable here, and then settle in and breathe. Releasing that hip, releasing that tension. Unclenching the jaw. Noticing if the mind is wandering and just bringing it back to the mat, back to the body, back to the breath. You come to a place where you want to exit the pose. Just taking another deep inhale and full exhale. slowly coming up, rocking over to that hip, pulling the heel towards the bum, and just getting that nice stretch in the front of the quad, front of the thigh. And releasing that, we're just gonna rock onto our bums again, extending the other leg out to the side, pulling that heel in towards the upper thigh. Growing up nice and tall again, you can use your opposite hand to press you away. Inhaling up tall, again, keeping the chest nice and open as you start to extend up and over that leg, feeling that nice stretch in the side. Breathing deeply in and out through the nose. And sweeping that arm up and placing it behind you. Pressing the hips forward, popping up onto that knee, coming into a little back bend here. And then releasing down. We're going to move on to our backs now. So you want to have some props close to you as we come onto our backs. You're going to want your 2 blocks. If you have any sort of pillows or weighted things for your eyes, and also your strap or a towel if you're using that. So we're going to come down onto our backs and just release our hamstrings really quick. So grab your strap. Just come with both knees bent up. Choose whichever side you'd like to start with, and just bring the strap around the ball of the foot. So pressing the lower back into the ground, holding one side of the strap in each hand, just beginning to flex the toes back towards the face. So you want that heel to be up higher than the toes, ideally. You can also put a little bend into your knee if that feels better for you. As you slowly start to pull the foot towards the face. Just breathing into the hamstring. You might notice a little bit of shaking here. That's totally fine. That's just the muscles being so used to doing so much work. When you stretch them out, sometimes they don't know what to do with themselves. And we're going to straighten out that other leg along the mat, bringing both straps into the same hand as the straightened out leg. So we're twisting across our bodies here, dropping this leg to the side. Gaze can be at the opposite hand. Just twisting open. Again, you can bend the knee. Trying to keep that shoulder that you're rolling away from nice and rooted into the ground. So really feeling that nice stretch across the chest. And bringing that foot back to center. You can release the strap, bending both knees. Just windshield wipering the knees side to side. And when you're ready, just switching sides. So bringing that strap to the ball of the foot. One side of the strap in each hand. Flexing the toes back towards the face. And then slowly beginning to pull the foot closer towards the head. Maybe having a little bend in the knee if that's more comfortable for you. Feeling that deep stretch in the hamstring, maybe in the calf as well. Moving both of the straps into one hand, releasing that bottom bent leg down, and just twisting the leg over. Gazing towards the opposite hand, keeping that shoulder rooted into the ground. Just feeling that nice stretch, twist in the lower back, the belly. And bringing the foot back to center. Again, just rocking the knees side to side. And pulling the feet up, coming into your happy baby. So the hands come on the insides of the knees and reach for the shins or the outsides of the feet. And you can rock side to side here, maybe straightening one leg and then the other. Just getting your last little wiggles out before we come into our last meditation pose here. So if you're really craving another posture, go ahead and take that now. And then we're going to set up in our supported fish pose. This is a pose that I love to take my Shavasana in. If you prop it nicely, it can be so comfortable. So you will need blocks for this or some books. You can even use some pillows, that kind of stuff. I also like to use a strap, but you can use a rolled up towel. So just starting to move towards that. I like a lot of space for my chest to open, so I use my blocks a little bit higher. So I'm gonna put my back block at the highest height, and then my second block is gonna line up kind of like a T at the second highest height. You can always use it at the bottom. You don't need the top block. If you'd like to just let your head fall back, you can do that. I get a little bit of swimmer's nose. So if you have something like that, you might not let your head fall back. But if it's comfortable and you don't mind it, go ahead and do that. So you want to line up the base of this block around the bottom of your rib cage, sort of, perhaps just a little bit higher than that. Play with it a little bit. You don't have to stay where you land. So just see if it feels like you have a huge crack in your lower back, or if it feels like it's really uncomfortable, too high up. Mess around with it and find where it's comfortable. If you do have a strap, I am going to tie myself in here. I promise you this is so comfy. So I'm gonna put my strap together. If you are using a towel or a blanket, just rolling that up into like a little skinny tube so it's nice and long. So getting my strap put together here. It's really like restorative yoga can feel like you're MacGyver, the way that you put yourself together in these poses. So I'm going to, how do I do this? I'm gonna bring my feet on the insides, but where the strap is coming up top. So it's gonna look like this if you're using a strap. If your blanket is long enough, you can also try that. Otherwise, with your long tube blanket, you're gonna use it and it's gonna hold your feet nicely. So you're gonna bring it up under your feet, and then you can cross it over top, or you can cross it underneath. I also like to do it on top of my feet, crossing underneath, and it's gonna keep your feet together while cushioning your ankle bones. So you can do that as well. You can also use your blanket or pillows on your blocks just to soften it a little bit for your back. So beginning to come onto your blocks here, or your pillows, whatever you've decided, finding that comfy spot where your chest can open. The back of the head is on your second block if you're using one. I'm going to tighten this strap a little bit, and then just dropping the knees open. Again, you can also place more blocks or pillows underneath the sides of the knees here to keep them supported. That's why I like this strap, because it sort of pulls in a way that supports your butterfly pose. So just getting yourself comfortable here. If you do have something delicious like this Namaste all day weighted eye pillow, lavender scented. Am I bragging so hard right now? Shut up, be a yogi, okay? If you have something, even just a hand towel, just to place something over your eyes, just to have that tiny bit of weight and that little bit of darkness so that you're really staying in your own little space here. Letting the shoulders roll back and down. And tuning into your breath here and noticing how you feel. Some people will get very uncomfortable in hip openers, like pigeon pose that we did earlier. That's where they kind of hold their tension. Whereas others may find that heart openers like this make them very uncomfortable. You might feel a kind of a flood of emotions coming to the surface. Observing if that's happening, and I invite you to just allow it. Not trying to change or shift anything, but just sitting with what's coming to the surface right now. Perhaps there's nothing. Maybe this is just a nice yoga pose for you. Maybe it's really uncomfortable and you're not loving it. Also trying to tune in throughout your yoga practice every day that you practice. And just observe when a pose does feel very physically uncomfortable, if perhaps there is a reason for that. And I'm not saying that there's always going to be some magical, mind-blowing reason why a full split is uncomfortable. You could just have tight muscles. That's gonna be uncomfortable for most people. But in a pose like this, noticing if you can settle into it, or if you're really getting frustrated, having to adjust a bunch of times, you're just not getting comfortable in the pose, getting annoyed, noticing that in yourself, and maybe taking a moment to observe, is this something that is actually as physically uncomfortable as I'm making it? Or am I feeling something coming up that's causing me to exhibit, my discomfort in a physical way? Am I just kind of pinpointing that it's a physical issue when really it's something deeper? So just observing that. Every time we practice, always trying to tune into what feels good for the body. But if we only tuned into that, then we would be doing gymnastics, which is also very fun and good for you. But the whole point of yoga here is we're trying to tune into something deeper. We want to get that physicality, that movement that's going to help our bodies to move more comfortably, but we also want to have our minds move more comfortably, releasing unnecessary tension or blockages. And perhaps getting to know ourselves a little bit deeper through the practice of physical movement, of that mental stimulation that you get. So just observing that, thinking about maybe the correlation between the two as you relax here. Allowing the body to sink. Before I let us get too relaxed, I do have to clear my throat, so I apologize. For 1 moment, please. My apologies. I don't have coronavirus, I promise. But hey, we're virtual anyways, so you're safe. So just releasing the body, releasing the tension. Allowing gravity to pull you into this pose. Allowing the mind to settle in. If at any time you just grow too uncomfortable, this can be quite a bit of a bend in the back. So if you do want to just come out of this pose, come into your regular Shavasana pose, feel free to do that, trying to keep the eyes heavy or closed, moving slowly and gently. Or of course, you're welcome to stay in this pose for the remainder of the practice. Listening to your body as always. Continuing to focus on the breath. Allow yourself to sink into the earth, supported and held. And if at any time you notice any sounds around you, distract you, perhaps your neighbors or family members off in the distance in your house, your pets, my pets. Just noticing that sound, acknowledging it, and not allowing it to draw your attention fully. Just acknowledging and moving back to the breath, back to the body. Noticing if the mind wanders, and just bringing it back to this present moment on your mat. Breathing. As always, feeling free to readjust yourself if you grow uncomfortable. Just noticing any sounds around you and just bringing the attention back to the breath. Every day is so wonderful, and suddenly it's hard to breathe. Now and then I get insecure, so consumed in all your doom. But you are beautiful no matter what they say, and words can't bring you down. We are beautiful in every single way. Words can bring us down. No, don't you bring me down today. Tell all your friends you're delirious. Soft snow and all your gloom. But you are beautiful in every single way, and words can't bring you down. You are beautiful every single day. No words can bring you down. No, no, you are beautiful in every single way. No words won't bring you down. So don't you bring me down today. No matter what they do, no matter what they say, words won't bring us down. Oh, oh. So don't you bring me down. Don't you bring me down. So don't you bring me down today. Don't you bring me down, oh, today. Beginning to deepen the breath. Allowing small movements to come into the fingers and the toes. When you're ready, just bending the knees. And just slowly, gently rolling yourself off of your props to one side into the fetal position. Using that bottom arm as a pillow as you rest here for a moment. And when you're ready, using your hands to help press you up, keeping the eyes heavy or closed, just coming to your comfortable cross-legged position. Hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra, bowing the head slightly. Just taking a moment to really appreciate all of the beauty that is you. Knowing that you are as you need to be, as you should be. And the world would be irreparably changed without you here. You are needed. You are wanted. You are cherished. You are loved. You are perfect. You are worthy of love. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy and free. The light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste. Thank you guys so much for joining me again today. I hope that you enjoyed this practice. As always, if you enjoyed the practice, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon to be notified every time I post. I will post a video every Saturday and occasionally during the week when the moment feels right. If you would like to follow me on Instagram, you can find me over there at Harmonious Hippy. That's Hippy, Hippy. And I would love to see you over there as well. Do leave the comment, let me know what you thought of the practice. If you have any questions, if you just want to say hi, that's always great. And I really appreciate you guys being here. As we just came to the end of Mental Health Awareness Month, I did want to mention to everyone, anyone, if there's only one person watching this video or if there's 100 people watching this video, that all of you are worthy of love and kindness. And if you feel unsupported, or if you ever feel like you are alone, just know that you are not. And you can always reach out to me specifically. You can send me a direct message on Instagram. If you feel like you need someone to talk to, mental health awareness is something that is very near and dear to my heart. So please know that you are a 100% necessary piece of this world, and the world would be shattered if you were not here. So that's just sort of my little mental health awareness check-in. We are also in Pride Month now, so happy Pride to everyone in the LGBTQIA community, anyone with family or friends in that community, supporters of that community, all of us. Just continue to shine brightly and be yourself, and at the end of the day, love is all that matters, and love is always going to win. So thank you again so much for joining me today, and I will see you next week. Namaste.